How's it going, guys? You want to learn how to do this to your motorcycle or car and not have to pay those big prices from shops? Go ahead and stay tuned. That's what we're gonna do today. This is gonna be the tools you're gonna need. Something to clamp down with, something to cut the wires and strip them. And you don't necessarily need this. I picked this up from where I work. You could use any kind of butt connectors whenever you possibly need it. The Allen head and something to heat shrink the wrap with. Also, you need a test light or a power probe, whichever one you see fit. This are what we're gonna be working with today. I don't know exactly where they're made. I'm gonna take a wild guess and say they're in China. I've heard good things about them, but we're gonna find out as we install them and see how it goes. The first things first, you always want to remove and get access to your battery. A lot of people like to find the ground somewhere else. I like to go straight to the source. Slide back a little bit, wiggle it so you don't scratch anything up, and lift straight up. You'll have access to your battery, and that's what we're going to be working with next. Now that you have access to your battery, what you want to do is you access your ground terminal. On most, if not all, Japanese motorcycles, you'll have the ground towards the front of the motorcycle. You'll have the power towards the rear of the motorcycle. You want to go with the ground and a test light. If you have a power probe, you'll be able to use both, but right now we're going to be using a simple test light. That's all we're going to need for this installation. So you're going to want to clip it to the ground as secure as possible. Make sure it doesn't wiggle around so you get good connection. And then the other side of the test light, you want to go ahead and test it on the power. Light turns on, that means you have good connectivity. You're able to move on to the next step. Next step will be to get access into your trunk or storage area. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and open that back piece out. Put this somewhere safe. You don't want to get your leather all ripped up. Once you have access to that, now on this motorcycle, when I did the fairings on it, I decided to move this, which is the tail light harness, over towards the inside. A lot of other motorcycles, you will have to reach in there or remove the rear fairing. I, on the other hand, once I did that, I knew I was going to work on it, so I left it here. But other than that, the only different step from here is removing the fairing as opposed to me having it here. So this is what we're going to work with. I'll be able to show you exactly how we're going to do this now. Alright, now that we have access to the harness, on your case, if you have removed this, this is what it should look like, a 3 connector. So one wire is going to be for daytime running lamps, which will be your brake lights just on once you turn the motorcycle on. The other one will be your ground. The other wire will be the signal wire once you hit the front or rear brakes, which activates the actual brake lights. That's the wire you want to find. That's the wire you actually want to splice in between when you install this flasher. This is very simple. What you're gonna do is now you have your test light. It's already hooked up. It's very simple. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna back probe it, the first wire. If you don't know, I already know which wire it is, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys step by step. So if you don't know which wire it is, you don't need a fancy wiring diagram. You don't need a fancy, pictures or anything like that from the manufacturer. You could literally just do this if considering that your harness is still the factory harness. So what you do is you back probe the actual connector. Make sure it's secure, like so. You go ahead and turn your ignition on. With the ignition on, your daylight running lamp should be on. So here we have nothing. This one we have power. Okay, so now we established that brown and white stripe will be your daylight running lamp. So let's double check that. We'll go ahead and turn the ignition off. The light should turn off. Turn the ignition back on. The light is back on. So now we've verified that that's the actual wire that turns the daylight running lamps on. Next step will be to find the one that triggers once you hit a brake, the front or the rear. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to the wire down below it, on a Honda you have 3 wires. So you have the top left, which will be your ground, and the one right across from it, which will be a green and yellow, will be the actual signal light. Okay. Alright. So now that we established which one it is, I'm gonna go ahead and break it down for you guys. On a Honda CBR 600 or 1000, they should be both the same. If I'm wrong, please go ahead and correct me on the comments below. I'll go ahead and fix that for you. So we have the daylight running lamps, which will be the brown and white color wire. And then what we're gonna do is right next to it, there should be a green and yellow wire. We're gonna go ahead and back probe that, and we're gonna go ahead and hit the brakes and see what happens.
Hello.
And there it is. Now we have established which one is the one that triggers the actual brake light. With that being said, that will be the green and yellow wire in your harness. So now what we can do is we'll go ahead and turn the ignition off, disconnect the ground cable. Make sure you don't want to lead any leads that might cause a short or anything like that. Now this is the part that a lot of you guys out there, or gals, are gonna be freaking out about. I assure you, you'll be alright. Nothing is gonna get damaged as long as you follow my steps. You'll be okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lift up this little tab here. If you don't have nails, you can use a little flathead screwdriver or a pocket screwdriver. Make sure you have enough wire that you could play with, okay? So if you're short like this one here that I have, what you want to do is you grab a razor blade. Be very careful you don't splice the wire or, you know, mess up your paint if your fairing is still on like mine. And you want to go ahead and make an incision. Think of it as a playing doctor for a couple of minutes. You want to make an incision back just enough that you have enough room to peel the factory tape back or loom. See, that one still needs a little bit more wiggle room, so you want to keep going back. Now once you have the wires exposed, we've already established that the brown and white is your daylight running lamps and your green and yellow is the trigger. That leaves us with the flat green, just straight green wire as your ground. So once you do this, what you're gonna want to do is, it's very simple. You're gonna want to cut this in between. Now I know, relax, don't freak out. We're gonna make this work the right way. So you're gonna cut this harness. Okay, so now we got our wire cutters. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna reach back as much as we can, as long as it stays comfortable. Okay, we're gonna make a cut right here, just like that. You're gonna put this, go ahead and put this in your toolbox, tool cart, whatever you have, table. Now, you wanna get a good wire stripper. You don't wanna overstretch the wire or break the strands inside. So this one, as you can tell, it has some good years behind it, but it's been pretty good for me, so I'm gonna go ahead and use it. You wanna make a pretty decent mark, not too much, not too little, but just about that much. I hope you can see it on the camera. You want to press and pull like so. Now you want to go ahead and grab it on the same and do the same exact thing towards the other end. So you want to reach in there, make the same length of cut, and pull back. Now that should expose the actual wire. Alright, so now that you have everything ready to go, what I like to do is always double check things. So you want to make a quick connection, nothing permanent. As I said, remember, the in goes towards the harness and the out goes towards your tail light connector. If you put it backwards, it might not work or you might blow a fuse. As for the ground, since we're doing a quick connection, nothing permanent. Okay, what you want to do is just find a good ground somewhere here and right here by your bike. The actual latches that hold down the rear seat work as a pretty good ground, so what you want to do is go ahead and use that, and I will show you. So right here and right there. Now here's the part where a lot of people will say solder it in. You could do that. That's a very good route to do it. Me, I like to use specific type of butt connectors, okay? And heat shrink, which acts as a gelatin which is melted, and you'll see it gets clear once it goes through. So what you want to do is, first things first, you want to go ahead and put your heat shrink in first. You don't want to put everything together and then forgot that you didn't put your heat shrink in, and then you have to cut everything up. Next step, again, I forgot to mention this. If you want to make this wire shorter, you could go ahead and do so. The reason why I'm leaving it the length that it came in is because it gives me more wiggle room where to put it, how to mount it, all of that stuff. So if you're using this kind of butt connectors, you can find them online. I'll try to find the link and go ahead and post them below. And if you want the crimpers for it, these are Bluepoints. Here's the part number. Papa Whiskey Charlie 47. Again, I'll post the link down below. Where you get them from your local Snap-on truck or online. But that is the part number. So if you have these, what you want to do is, on the secondary, not the first one, the one towards the middle, you want to find the letter E. Okay, the letter E on the crimper. You want to put them where the actual clip goes towards the top. You want to go ahead and slide the wire in. See, on this one, it's a little bit too long, so we're going to make that wire a little bit shorter. So you want to make it about half of what it comes with. Cut that half in, like that. Alright, once you cut that wire to the specific length that you need, make sure, again, heat shrink first. You want to go ahead and slide that in. So it tops out. Now when you squeeze in, you want to make sure you don't over squeeze it, just enough so you make a nice clean connection. I don't know if you can see it here, hopefully you can see a little connector. Now once you have that connection done, you want to go to the one in the back right here, okay, and you want to use the same thing, the letter E. You can always go for the big ones. This is a little bit bigger. You want to go ahead and use the letter D, then go ahead and do so as well, which is what we're going to do now. And the same process as before. You squeeze, not too tight because you will expose it and you may damage it. So you squeeze again, nice crimp, and again, what that does, it locks the wire in place. So even if this one comes loose, you still have a secondary fail measure there, I guess you want to call it. So what you do is you follow the process for everything else the same way as that. We're gonna go ahead and fast forward this video. Now we have the power side hooked up. We're gonna go ahead and start with the heat shrink process. As I said to you guys before, you're gonna see how this type of heat shrink works. I highly recommend it. I will try to find the link below. I only get this at the dealer. Other than that, I will try to find it for you guys and post it below. It's very simple. You just put this right behind it and you'll let it do its work. You know it's done with its process when it becomes clear, where you can see everything across. As you can see, it's starting to show through already. Alright, so now that we got the power situated, as you can see here. This is where we're gonna turn a little bit towards the weird side of things. See, the way certain people online have it is that they want you to splice the ground that goes towards the connector, which is fine. You could do it that way. However, I would like to keep the harness as intact as possible. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and put the grounds to the module or the controller to chassis ground. Now, would it cause any problems? Not at all. Why do I say that? Because this controller, what it does is it interrupts the power by relaying ground towards the power, meaning pretty much shorting the actual signal to the light off. Now, if I'm wrong and you guys have better knowledge on that, on this controller than I do, go ahead and please post it down below and I will get back to you, and I will thank you personally. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put this and this ground. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put it directly to a chassis ground. Two reasons. One, well, more than two reasons. I want to keep the harness as complete as possible, as I said. Two, I want to make it easy for me if later down in the future something, God forbid, happens with the stored or something shorts out. All I have to do is just disconnect two wires from here to here. In other words, all I had to do is cut two wires and then resplice them back together instead of having to cut 4 wires in total and splice those back together. So this, all I will have to do is, once I put the connectors to it, is pretty much taken back out from the whatever bolt that I used to do it. So now, with that being said, we are gonna do this the right way. We're not gonna put this just around a bolt and tying the bolt down. We're gonna actually put the connectors that go around the bolt and secure it properly. That's, now that we established what we're gonna do with the grounds, I chose my location to be this bolt here. Hopefully you can see it. This bolt right here that holds down the fairing. Now I will not be doing it over the top, I'll be doing it underneath it. Right, so what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be using this little guy here. Now you're saying, hey Motoish, what's going on? You're not using the fancy shrink wrap. Well, hold on, because yes I am. What you're gonna do is some of them come out simple, some of them will fight you to come out. This one I happen to be lucky, and it just pretty much, you can twist it, pull it out, and then you can just put the wire in there, put the shrink wrap over it, you're good to go. So that's what's coming up now. First step, you're gonna get the ground cables. Okay, you're gonna want to do this to them, intertwine them. Now again, you can splice it into the harness. As I said before, I don't want to personally do that, but you can, and the only difference is you will have to follow this same procedure here instead of doing what I'm doing now. You want to go ahead and twist them counterclockwise, clockwise if you're lefty or righty. Make sure you have a nice connection like that. You're gonna go ahead and grab your heat shrink, wire shrink. You're gonna go ahead and slide it over. Make sure that you don't pinch it or anything like that, so you keep a nice contact. Right? You're gonna get your O-ring style connector, slide it in like this. Try to go as far back as you can. You wanna go ahead and get your handy dandy trim tool. Nothing metal, because you don't want to break your fairing, and just pry up a little bit. That's all you have to do. So what we're gonna do, as that, there you go. So now that you have that in there, sorry guys, I promise you we'll get better cameras as the channel moves up. You go ahead and put that tool back in. Now you want to tie in this to specification settings or specs, whatever you want to call it, however mean. You could do a hand tight, literally hand tight, or wrist tight, and that's it. It's not going anywhere. So now, before we finish putting the loom, you want to double check everything is working. So now you got everything back on, you plugged on the plug, you want to make sure everything works. Turn on the ignition, regular lights work, your DRLs, daylight running lamps. Now you test out your front brake. Test it again. I'm not looking at you guys, I'm looking at a mirror behind me. And one more time for the front. And as you can see, it's working the way it should. Now we're gonna try with the rear brake. We're gonna do the same process. Press the rear brake, wait for it to stop, press it again, wait for it to stop. You should be good. Alright, thank you for watching. Now that you fully followed my steps, you should be able to do this without any problem at all. Thanks for watching. Hit that thumbs up, hit the notification buttons, make sure you follow up with any videos that I put up, and as always, leave a comment down below what you think, if you liked it or did it, and if you want me to do something else. I appreciate everything. As always, stay safe, stay humble, ride safe.